Good day, and welcome to a new episode from Grumpy is Gamer on Heart of Iron 4. This is an old favourite of mine, and so we're going to spend a little time today just getting into the game, talking about how we're going to approach this and what we're going to do along the way. I have played the game before, and it is in fact one of my favourite strategy games. So without further ado, let's jump in and have a look at what we're going to be doing. So we're going single player, and I like to start in the 1936 scenario because you can have a big impact on the game by your initial setup and how you go from there. So we're going 1936, and in this series, we're going to be playing the Soviet Union. So we're going to select Joseph and go in. Now, we're not going to play Iron Man mode because as a let's play, we don't want to be caught in a situation where if there's a problem with the recording or a problem with the voice and I need to redo an episode, I get myself stuck because then we lose out in the continuity of the game. So we're not going to go Iron Man mode. I'm not going to turn on historical AI focuses. I'm going to let the AI make its own choices as we go along. And we're going to play on regular, which is right in the middle of the road and not too bad. So let's just jump in, having set ourselves up as Joseph. Okay, so straight away, the Soviet Union's got some very serious issues. The first one being that technologically and industrially, they are way behind the rest of Europe, and particularly way behind Germany. So if we quickly go and have a look, we've got no research, which is not unexpected. And if we quickly go into research, we see that even some of our infantry hasn't even caught up to 1918 standards. We have some support companies. Tanks are back in 34. Artillery is behind. And we have no doctrine. And even our fleet is back in 1922. Aircraft, pretty poor. We're using these, as you can see from the design here, not very advanced. We're mostly back here for most of our aircraft. And of course, electronics, we start like all the other players in the game back in 36. And the same over here, except that I think it's Germany. In Germany's case, synthetic oil and rubber has already been researched. So that's that. We have some free civilian factories and not much going on there. We have military factories and dockyards not in use. And we have the national focus. Now, in the initial part of the game, what Russia needs to do is get its industry right up to speed very quickly. So in the initial part of the game, I will be concentrating on everything and anything to increase the building speed for factories which come under our construction queue. Because if Russia gets into war without the necessary factories and infrastructure that it needs to maintain the war effort, it very quickly loses. So in terms of what I do in the focus tree for development, initially it will be all about construction. So the first one will be the 5-year plan. Then we're going to dash over here to Stalin Constitution, and we're going to go straight down here because we get positive heroism. Now, this is a tree selection, and my personal favorite for playing the Soviet Union is positive heroism. This is good down here, the collectivist propaganda. But the two things I really like about the positive heroism is, first of all, well, actually it's three things. First of all, it's Konstantin Rokossovsky, which is good for armor. Then you get a hit, not a bad hit, but a good hit to your research time. So that improves your research. The recruitable population of 3%, in my opinion, is unbelievably good for the Russians. It just makes the build-up and the defensive structure so much better. And then, of course, down here, the last one, the extra research slot, really good. Then we have to come across here because sooner or later, and quite frankly, better a little bit sooner, we have to go through the Great Purge. And the Great Purge really knocks the Russian military about. You lose a good number of officers, and it does hit the military quite hard. And the recovery is extended. So the sooner we get that out of the way, the better off we are. That's that. Then if you come and have a look at the political arena, we're going to do the same thing down here initially. Everything to do with rapid development is what we're going to get. So the first one off the bat for us will be this one. Nikolai Voznezhetsky. My apologies if I'm not saying these names right. And you can tell from this benefits here for the development of our industry. So that's the sort of thing we'll be looking at, and we'll be going down those paths initially. As we get along, we will have other things to develop, and no game is ever 100% repeatable. So even having played before as the Soviet Union, there will be variations. It's not all going to go according to plan. So that's where we're starting off. Now, in terms of strategy, even though we have not turned the AI historical focus on, we know fairly reliably that Germany is going to attack Russia. So our main consideration is going to be that Germany is going to attack us, and they are going to be a powerhouse when they come at us. But in the game, the AI has a choice, especially if the historic focus isn't set on, where they can choose not to attack you. And one of the main reasons they do this is if your defenses around the border with Germany, and by the time we get to 1941, we are specifically talking about the border between Romania, Poland, Romania, Poland, and the border then when we take the Baltic regions up here will include Ostpreußen. So the German front to us will run along here like this and then down there. That's assuming also that they don't divide Poland with us, which has happened. The Germans can decide to take it all and not share, but they're a bit like that in the game. So our big our biggest effort will be to defend ourselves against the Germans. And one of the ways that we need to encourage the Germans to attack us is to place our defences not on the border region, but in a more defensive position, consolidated back here, using the natural benefits that we get from being behind a river. So we're going to put our front line to Germany back from the border and run it up. Now, let me just go down here a sec. Run it up from basically Sevastopol, which is down here near Kherson, following the river line all the way up to Leningrad. Now, when we get to Leningrad, we're going to put a fort line across there just to maintain a front with Leningrad so that we get supply out of Leningrad to our troops, and also if we need it into Leningrad, because Leningrad, from memory, is a supply source. Leningrad is a supply source. I better double check that, but I think it's a supply source. Anyway, so that's our plan. And what we're going to do is we're going to build up our military along this line, and we're also going to put in fortifications along the line. The Germans are going to hit us. They're going to be technologically advanced. They're going to have good Panzer units. They're going to have experienced and very good infantry units and mechanized units. And they're going to come at us with a pretty substantial air force. So we're going to fortify that region all the way along here behind the river. We're going to get the benefit from the fortification. We're going to get the benefit from the river. And on top of that, we're going to pump out a lot of fighter aircraft, simply because we don't want the Germans to have air superiority and be able to get their dive bombers and their Heinkels in to bomb our position. So we are going to be focused on that. Then, over on the Eastern Front, we need to worry a little bit, but not too much, about our friends in Japan. We're not going to put really good units over here because in the majority of games, Japan does not attack the Soviet Union. Now, if Germany starts winning in the West, then yes, we will have a problem with the Japanese, because what militaristic power doesn't like a weakened state? So over on this side, we'll be setting up some units, possibly NKVD, and also cavalry. Now, when and if, because we don't know how this is going to go, but when and if Russia starts the pushback against Germany, oddly enough, one of the things we are going to need are cavalry units. And the reason why we need cavalry units is because cavalry have really good suppression, even without MPs. So if I were to add, for example, an MP to that, I get an extra 0.6 suppression. Oh, sorry, 1.6 suppression. So even without MPs, the suppression of the cavalry units is pretty good, and they're quite cheap units to build. So we'll be pumping out those later in the game. Now, also, while we're here, let's have a look at a couple of things. First of all, our divisions are pretty bad. This is what Russia starts with at the beginning of the game. Not even engineers. and we're going to need to put some effort into our rifle division. Now, as a methodology, I like to start off and produce pretty basic infantry units. And then each time we get upgrades, we start building the new units and also upgrading the old units. Now, it's a bit tedious and it's a bit intense. It takes a fair bit of, if you like, desk management to get all this done. But in the long run, you want your infantry in the best position you can get, the best affordable position you can get when the war starts. So we're going to be doing that. And also we're going to be participating in some of the other conflicts that start up during the game. And I'm specifically referring to the Spanish Civil War. Now, if we're lucky, we will, first of all, be on the winning side because we get into trouble if the Republicans lose, because then we have a chance. Well, in fact, I've never been able to get my units out if the Republicans lose. But we do want the Republicans to win, and we want the war to go on for a long time so that we can get a lot of army experience out of the conflict. And it's that army experience that allows us to modify our military and design new units. So we want that as well, and we do want to be involved in that as well. So we'll start in a second, but what I want to do is also let you know that during the game, when this gets going, some of the work that needs to be done in terms of upgrading specific units and doing all that sort of thing and waiting for things to be built can take a little while. So we can be sitting there watching the screen for a bit. Now, when we get to those parts of the game, I will actually fast forward or cut them out so that you're not watching all the build. But I will tell you what I'm doing during that time, and I will let you know that I'm just going to be doing this, and we'll come back and when that's done and that sort of thing. And that way, it's a more enjoyable experience playing the game because you're not sitting there waiting for the snow to stop falling while your units are training, sort of thing. So, having said that, and we're 18 minutes in, why don't we start? So the first thing we need to do is notice that none of our military units are assigned to anybody. So we're going to need to look at that. And we're going to need to structure our military and get it lined up where we need it to be. Same with the Navy. Whoops, let me just go back here. This is the troops that we have, more specifically the divisions that we have. So we have 1,231 battalions, 138 divisions, and then we have a Navy, which is all over the place. These two fleets down here, which I'm going to try and say it, Tikhokyinsky. Tikhokyinsky Flot is actually Vladivostok. The Baltiyevsky Flot is Leningrad, the Baltic Fleet, and Chernomorski Flot is Sevastopol, which is down here. So we need to organize those. In this game, submarines have not been of that much benefit, I've found. So I won't be putting a lot of effort into submarines, but I will actually, even for the Russians, be building up a reasonable fleet. And mainly because you don't know what's going to happen later game. Ships take a long time to put together. So I will be putting some effort into the fleet. And then, of course, the air arm over here is pretty scattered. So initially in this game, what I'll do is I'll be bringing all the Air Force together at Moscow and then setting it up from there so it's manageable and I know where everything is. So that's what we're doing. So let's start off, first of all, by doing our construction work. And initially, what we need is factories. So here we have the map, and this is the setup for the particular construction item that you have. So if I was to go to infrastructure, you'll notice it changes and it gives you how much infrastructure is in each area and and what the maximum is. And the Q. Q, 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 2 of 4. 5 of 10 infrastructure. Right. Okay. So as a general rule, okay, I should go back and explain something else too in terms of strategy. We'll be setting up our plan is to set up our defensive line along the river. If our defensive line fails, then we are in very serious trouble because given the width of the front, it's going to be very hard for us to slow down, if not even stop, the Germans. So we are basically saying that when the war starts with Germany, we are going to give up all this territory west of this river line. So there's no point building any factories over here because that's going to go within a day or two of the war starting. And then if we have a problem in here through bombing, through breakthroughs, all sorts of things, the industry in this section will also be damaged. So we're going to put mostly and only if we can civilian factories here, and we're going to put all our military factories west of Moscow. Now, we will need to keep some civilian factories over here as well, because we will need the capacity that they give us to keep building later in the game. So it's going to be a bit of a balancing act, but that's what we're going to try and do. So initially, though, when we start off, we build civilian factories, and I'm going to build 12 of them. And that will set us up for the beginning of the game and give us the capacity. And then after that, we're going to mix it between civilian and military, and then we're going to start adding other things like naval dockyards and, very importantly for us, land forts. So let's begin. And this won't take very long, so we'll just do this. So we're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12. And then just so that we know we're on the new one, we'll go, oops, I've lost Moscow. Don't lose Moscow. 1, Good. Okay, so let's just go down here and double check that. Yep, and that lets us know for sure that we've switched over from 12. Why do I want to make sure I stick it at 12? Just because we need to keep an eye on things and make sure we're at least managing the situation well. So our research is very easy at the start of the game. We want speed in construction. So this one gives us a plus 10 construction, and later on when things start getting broken, a repair speed. Then we also need research time, minus 2%, which is good for us. And most assuredly, so that we can keep our factories working, we need synthetic oil. Yep, going to go synthetic oil on this one, because that is very important to us. What happens is that if you start running out of resources, which we're already behind with rubber, you run out of resources, you have to take it from various places. And if you end up buying it from overseas, you end up spending convoys to get it. But irrespective of that, you also swap for the goods, you swap civilian factories, which impacts your ability to build quickly and build a lot of things. So we want to keep that sort of thing down to a minimum. So we've got our national focus, which we need to set. And as we discussed very early on, we're going for the 5-year plan because it gives us 2 building slots with 2 civilian factories in Barnol and Kemerovo. So we're going to do that for 70 days. And then we have some military factories. And this is not hard. We are down infantry equipment. We are down artillery. We are down motorized. We are down light tanks. But the first things we want to put our capacity into is infantry equipment and support equipment, because that's where we're going to be spending our effort. So we're going to go 3 there, 3 there, and then another 5 there, and another 1 there. So that was the first 2, the infantry equipment and the light tank. Artillery is very important for our infantry units. So we're going to be putting there. And we also know that later on, fighters are seriously important for us. So we're going to go fighters. And 1 more. And we're going to put that in light tanks. Actually, we're going to put extra in light tanks, because then as we develop it, we'll go straight into light tanks. And we have spent 36 out of 36 factories, but we do have some naval dockyards that are free. So let us do naval while we're in here. So this is what we've got set up as naval. Now notice at the moment that the deploy target base is in fact auto. So the computer decides where it wants things to go. And my goodness, doesn't it like submarines? So first of all, we're going to bring submarines down to 1, because they're not that good for us in the long term. And then we're going to set up our builds so that they're actually useful for us. And we do this by going to the Navy screen and having a look. Now, we know we're going to go to war with Germany, or at least we hope we are. So the first place we want to build up our fleet is right here in the Baltic, the Baltiski Flot. So if we have a look at that, we see we have 2 battleships and 9 destroyers. I've found when I play the game in the past, 20 plus destroyers is good for a fleet. It gives you good air defense and good anti-submarine capability. So the first thing we want to do is build that fleet up to 20 destroyers. So let's just go back here for a minute. First of all, we'll change where this goes and we'll actually assign the ships as they're built directly to the fleet. I forgot how many we had in there, sorry. We've got 9, so if I want to go up to 20, we need 11. So we're going to add, we're going to take this up to 11. And we're building 2 a year. Okay, we'll build 2 a year. So then, now the other thing I should mention in too, when you set these numbers for that fleet, when it's built the 11 and they've been assigned to that fleet, this build queue will actually go away. So that means that we're only building what we want, and then we're notified when we get our build dockyards back. And also you can add extra. For example, I put these here. Notice how they're gray. And then when, for example, one of these is finished building and it's deleted from the queue, then that naval dockyard will go to the first available slot from top to bottom in this queue here. So that is a way that we can plan ahead where we don't have to continually keep going back and reviewing what we've got because we know that it's building what we want and actually in the order that we've scheduled it. So we're going to add 11 destroyers to the fleet. Then we're going to add no light cruisers. We're going to add some light cruisers to there. Oops, light cruisers. All right. Now let's go a light cruiser down here to the Baltiski Flot. And I like the number 4. Oop. What happened? Why is it doing that? 4. Going to go 3 again. So notice that it won't start building until it gets some naval dockyards, and it won't get any naval dockyards now until these submarines are built. So we want 4 light cruisers, and I think I also want a heavy cruiser there. Yes, a heavy cruiser to the Baltiski Flot. And again, I apologize if I'm not saying these names correctly. And we'll go 3 there as well. Okay. So that's that. Now down here in Sevastopol, what are we doing? A battleship, 4 light cruisers. I don't really see the point of having him in there. So I'm going to merge the Chernomorski Flot with Vladivostok, and that will give us a good start. First of all, let's relocate you to Vladivostok. Actually, let's not go to Vladivostok. Let's go naval base of 1, naval base 8. Yes, we will go to Vladivostok. So to relocate the fleet, control and right click Vladivostok, and then right click to move it there. Except it can't get there. That's sad. Can it not get there? Just turn the game on for a second. I think it can get there. No. Okay, well, we won't relocate that fleet then. That makes that fairly easy. Okay. Okay, back to what we were doing. Now, we're building there. We need a commander. Now, this is our most important fleet. So we are going to give this guy our best commander. And we are going to send the fleet out on search and destroy. Yes, we are. And we're going to send it into the Baltic, which is good because all our upgrades or replacement ships and additional ships will go straight into the fleet, even if it's performing its duties. And then we're going to do something with these submarines. And we're going to send him out on patrol. Right there. And we're going to go up to Murmansk. And we're going to assign Severny Podvodny Flot. We're going to give him 2. Right. Going to select him, and we're going to send him out on patrol. So the Barents Sea, the Norwegian coast, and that should do for now. Okay. We're 38 minutes in, and we are on our way to doing our setup. So I think we shall call it here. When we get back together next time, let's have a look. We'll finish off the Navy. We will have a look at the Air Force and the Army, and we will actually start the game so that we can be developing our industry while we're doing these other things. So thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please press the like button. And until we see each other again, bye for now.